can you give some advice to the atheist one who says, I don't believe there is a God or believe in the prophets? Then the one who says that I do not believe in a God, then really this individual, to be honest with you, has not even understood his own nature, has not understood his nature. There are some beautiful words that I can mention with regard to that, which would, I think, hopefully bring you around. And that is that they are proofs of the existence of your Lord. The proof of the existence of your Lord is from various angles. First of all, it is indicated and established by your natural disposition. Because an atheist is not atheist because he was born an atheist. No atheist has ever said that I was born an atheist, from any of the scholars of atheism. Atheism is an ideology that is chosen. They grow up believing in something, in a God or gods or something that their parents raised them upon. Or they have been raised in believing in an agnostic belief, even though they were at their birth, as the Prophet mentioned, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, that everyone is born upon a natural disposition towards the worship of their Lord. Then his parents make him a Jew or a Christian or a fire worshipper. So what's every single child born upon? Every single child is born upon a natural disposition to worship the one true Lord. Atheism comes decades later, because atheism is a philosophy and an ideology. After looking at the world and looking at the greatness of his own intellect and at the haughtiness of his own character, or maybe even at all of these ideologies that are becoming prevalent in our times of Darwinism, and that we came from a Big Bang that is not explained by any single scientist, because not a single one of them knows what happened before the Big Bang, or whether the Big Bang is really the answer to the creation of life. But it is an ideology that comes about by studying these philosophies, whether it be scientific philosophies and theories. But it is nevertheless something that comes about. Atheism is not something that you're born with. Atheism, you will not find a child who will sit with you and say to you, any child, go to any nursery, unless his parents have told him that any child will ever say to you that I am an atheist, I do not believe in God, or I do not believe that I was created or anything. You won't find children upon that. Why? Because children are upon a natural disposition. And this is something that is reality. The proof from the intellect. All created things, from the first of them to the last of them, must have a creator that created them. This is because the soul itself, your soul, my soul, it cannot create itself. And it didn't create itself. Neither is it by way of coincidence, luck or chance. You and I did not come about by luck or chance. We are too complex. Our characters are too complex. Our bodily motions are too complex. So much so that till this day, with all the development of scientific technology, a robot cannot imitate, till this day, even though its computations, the computations of a computer, which a robot is, that they are far advanced. A computation in the microchip of a robot is a lot more advanced or quick in terms of his millions in a millisecond, more than you and I can think of in a moment. Even though these computations take place in our body, yet a robot can never imitate the movements of a human being. Till this day, never imitate the movements of a human being. You will always notice a difference. So you didn't create yourself. Your soul didn't create themselves. It is not possible for the soul to create itself, because the thing cannot create itself. I cannot sit here and say that chair created itself. Something made it. So therefore, it is a fallacy, and it is foolishness to think that we created ourselves. Since before the existence there was nothing. Before the existence, go back in time, as far back as you want to go. That before the heavens and the earth were created, what was there? And you have to say, well, there must have been a time when there was nothing. There was no heavens and the earth. The Big Bang Theory itself, that the whole of creation was in a particle that is smaller than a proton and a neutron. That is in fact so small that the proton and the neutron, which is in the nucleus of an atom, itself is like a universe compared to what everything was inside of. So you imagine, you can't even imagine, because there's no microscope that has seen that object. that you can imagine the smallest particle that has never ever been seen by the sharpest electron microscope in the world. That the whole of the universe was inside of that. Everything, you, me, everything. The constituent parts of this universe were inside of that. Then for some reason, it exploded. And then within a moment that is smaller, a millionth of a millionth of a millionth, and even more than that of a millisecond, it exploded and the whole of the universe came into existence. This is the theory of modern science. This is the theory of modern science. That from that, within a millisecond, all of this came about. Its constituent parts. Then over billions and billions and billions of years, the stars were formed. And supernovae were formed. And collapsing stars were formed. And due to the intense temperature of those collapsing stars, they believe that some elements came about. Those elements, due to random, not even random selection, but due to some sort of interaction between them, those elements formed and they created planets, created atmospheres, created the various gases, created the 102 elements that they believe that every single human and every single part of this universe is created from. Then, perchance, there was a planet called Earth, and upon that planet, certain temperatures and conditions came about due to its nearness to the sun that caused those elements to mix at certain temperatures and pressures, that we had the formation of a substance called hydrogen, which later developed and came together with another atom and made hydrogen times 2, which combined with another element called oxygen, which brought about water. And from water, they say, came about life. All by coincidence. And then somehow, some of these things came together, and then you had the first creation of life from nothing. From there, you had the sea creatures which developed, and then you know the rest of the story. That your forefathers were fish and amoeba and dolphins. They eventually came upon land, and then you were some sort of insects crawling upon the earth, and then they developed into other creatures, into two types, vertebrates and invertebrates, those with a backbone, those without backbone, those with warm blood and those with cold blood, and so on and so forth, and then into the various constituent parts of the animal world, and you happen to be a mammal. So somewhere in your lineage there's an ape, who is your great multiplied to the to a certain number. Grandfather was a monkey. This is what they believe. This has no basis to it. It doesn't make sense intellectually. It does not make sense intellectually. It does not make sense scientifically. It is not proven scientifically. It is not proven scientifically that this is what occurred. Regardless of Darwinism. Darwinism only, if you can imagine a puzzle of a few billion pieces, Darwinism explains one piece of that puzzle. Or claims to explain one piece of that puzzle. It doesn't explain anything further. It doesn't explain the complexities of the creation. It doesn't explain the atmosphere of this world, and the valleys, and the rivers, and the sun, and its motion. It doesn't explain any of that. And the only conclusion that you can come to, just from logic, if you don't believe in a God, is that there was a creator. That's the only logical conclusion that you can come to. Sheer coincidence or chance cannot create, because every occurrence must have something or someone causing it to occur. Also, the existence of creation in such an unprecedented manner is unprecedented. You don't find it on any other planet. And nor do we know of any other creation in any other part of the universe, or they don't. We do, of course, because we know that there are other creatures that Allah has created. Also, the existence of creation in this manner, the coordination, the harmony, the union required between causes and consequences, and between created objects. What causes your hand when you put your kettle on in the morning and it starts boiling, and you put your hand over the steam that's coming out as it's boiling? What causes your hand to react and move backwards? That's a complexity. That is something that you're not going to tell me happened by random selection. It's like me saying, and I'll give a simple example. You know, kids, Any of you have children? They have cubes. Those cubes, on one side of those cubes, there will be the letter A. All the other sides will be just colors. A brown side, a red side, a green side. But one side of them will have the letter A. You have 26 of them, each one representing each letter of the alphabet. Now, I will put them into a bag. A simple carrier bag. Shake the bag up. Stand upon this stage. Tip the bag upside down. What are the chances of those squares or those cubes landing upon this floor from the letter A to the letter Z, all in alphabetical order with the letter facing upwards, all in a perfect straight line? How many times do you think I'd have to do it before that would occur? You would say, any normal human being with any sense would say, it's not going to occur. You could be there till the end of your life, rather till the end of your children's life, and then their children's life. You standing on that stage and turning that bag upside down 1,000,000 times is not going to cause those things to come out in exactly from A to Z, in alphabetical order, one lined up right exactly against the next one, all in a line. That's blocks of cubes, alphabet blocks, with just 26 letters, that you would say that either I'm a magician for that to occur, or I'm a madman, and I'll be killing myself for the rest of my life doing it. And you'd be right. Now, if that's with cubes, you tell me the universe and its complexities, the planets and the stars, the sun and the moon, the valleys and the rivers, the butterfly who comes out of the caterpillar and metamorphosizes from a caterpillar to a butterfly, the sperm meeting the egg of the woman, whereby you have the creation of a fetus that is fed by an umbilical cord that filters out anything that is bad for the child and gives only the child that which the child needs. And then it comes out of the only orifice that the human body or the female body can release that baby from. And then that umbilical tube is cut and the woman returns back to her health. That's just a human fetus. You're telling me, or someone's going to tell me, that those blocks that could not land 26 in a row, that the complexities of life, and that's just in a human being. What about birds who have eggs? What about fertilized eggs of a fish, where the fish lays the egg, the male comes along and he fertilizes the egg a certain time of the year? What about the salmon that leave as babies from their river and they go out into the ocean and then they return towards the end of their lives just to fertilize the eggs and die in that location? Complexities. What? Random selection? Random selection is a contradiction, because you can't have random and then selection. Selection is ordered. Random is not ordered. These are words and terminologies of deception and confusion. How can you have random selection? Either you're selecting or you're not selecting. Either it's selection or it's random. You can have random selection. It's not random selection. What they mean by random selection is that we cannot explain how this happened, but we believe it happened. That somehow the survival of the fittest occurs. But the survival of the fittest doesn't apply to humans, because the humans will save others and put their own lives in danger. Would you not see? Or is it an uncommon occurrence or a suggestion to make that a woman walks her baby, a toddler, maybe 3 years old, down the street? The toddler lets go of the hand of its mother and runs into the street. And a bus is about to hit that child. What will the mother do? Will she now think, well, I've got to survive, forget the child? No. The mother will jump into the street, push the child, or try to push the child out of the way, even if it means that she dies. Human nature is so complex that it is not explained by random selection. The soul is not explained by random selection. How the mind works isn't explained by random selection. How the brain cell dies and rejuvenates isn't explained by random selection. How the body recuperates. There's a certain type of lizard that you chop off its tail, the tail grows. If I chop off your hand, will it grow? No. These are complexities of life that are not explained by these theories. Not explained by these theories. Let me give you another example. I take some metal, just some metal. In fact, I take a rock with iron ore inside of it. And I take some wood. And I take some plastic, some oil, in fact, because that's where plastic comes from, crude oil. And I throw them into a mixer. Have you ever seen a cement mixer on the back of a lorry? And I place them in there. What are the chances of that turning into a hi-fi stereo? A simple question. What are the chances of that turning into a hi-fi stereo? And I increase and decrease the temperature in there. It's not going to happen. Your logic and your mind and your intellect tells you that's not going to happen. Yet we are forced to believe, or we are, in fact, if we don't believe that, then you are seen as the nutcase. That's what they say, that you are creationists, that you are people who believe in the creation of mankind, and they see you as some sort of loony. Yet in reality, they're the loonies. They're the loonies. There's a beautiful narration of Abu Hanifa. Abu Hanifa met an atheist in his time. The atheist said to him, I want to debate with you. He said, no problem, I'll meet you tomorrow. He said, where? He said, across the river. He said, why across the river? He said, just meet me across the river. Tomorrow, after the prayer, meet you across the river. He goes, no problem. So then the atheist was there ready. They're ready. And Abu Hanifa turned up. And he said, do you know how I got across the river? He said, I presume he came by boat. He said, no. I came across the river. I was standing on the other side of the river. And all of a sudden, some rocks started falling from the mountain. And the iron came extracted out of it. And they formed themselves into nails. Then this tree started falling around me. And then they started slicing themselves into planks. And then they started forming into shapes. And those planks started forming the shape of a boat. And the nails, they started pushing themselves into the boat. So then I jumped on the boat and came across. He goes, do you think I'm mad? You expect me to believe that? Abu Hanifa said, do you think I'm mad? That I'm to expect that all of the universe and the heavens and the earth and the humans and the fish and the animals and the trees, that all of these came about just like that? If I was to tell you today, my brothers and sisters, that this bottle of water here, that this bottle of water is a product of evolution, that this bottle of water is a product of evolution. It was at some stage, some sort of amoeba, developed into some sort of animal, then it metamorphosized into a bottle, and now that bottle sits there today. None of you would believe me. And I'd say, why not? You'd say, look, it's a bottle. Plastic, paper. Someone had to make that. Top, water inside. Who put the water inside? How did it get there? You say, you think I'm mad thinking? You're going to expect me to believe that bottle just turned up there? Yet we are commanded and ordered, and our children and schools and colleges are taught that something that is infinitely more complex than this came about in the same manner. It's not possible. It's not possible. So therefore we reject the ideologies of of those people who believe that we came about by random selection. I want to finish with this verse from the Quran. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed a verse. One of the companions, he heard it. His name was Jubair bin Mut'im. Jubair bin Mut'im was an unbeliever. He was an idol worshipper, or he didn't believe at all. And then he heard this verse from Surah At-Tur. He said, when this verse was recited to me, he said that it was as if my heart was about to come out of my chest and fly away, out of the heaviness and the weightiness of this ayah, this verse, where Allah mentions, were they created from nothing? Or were they themselves the creator? Or did they create the heavens and the earth themselves? No, they have no firm belief. Or do they have with them the treasures of your Lord? Or are they tyrants with the authority to do as they like? Jubair bin Mut'im, he said, my heart almost flew out with happiness. And that was the first time that belief settled in my heart. Because it's true. Did you create yourselves? Did you create yourselves, or were you created from nothing? Do you have the keys to the heavens and the earth? Or do you control the heavens and the earth? You have no firm belief. No firm belief except that this is a beguilement from shaitan, who is playing with your hearts and minds. So do not enter into it, my brothers and my sisters and my respected guests, into this false fallacy. And in fact, this is a whole chapter in it of itself with regard to the existence of the Creator and our belief in the existence of the Creator.